Farmer's Almanac and the power of sacred geometry. We'll be exploring the principles. Welcome everyone to a special presentation on the Farmer's Almanac and the power of sacred geometry. We'll be exploring the principles.
Hello everyone. We are waiting for my guest just to get in. Professor Lester Loving, an authority on natures and its signals, as well as talking about pyramids. Tonight, I'm doing something different and we're trying to get callers in. So guys out there, be patient with us. The number you can call in is 667-770-1389, 667-770-1389. Press 474-88994, and you can speak live. So that is our conference call. So I am going to try to give a call again. I wish I could do it from here. Maybe I'll have my son do it. So without further ado, let's play one more commercial. We haven't did that in a minute. So sorry about this. Thank you for being patient. Okay, everybody, let's be patient, breathe, take a deep breath. Let's listen to some music and see, just will my guests to come in, because things do happen unexpectedly. Don't know why, but we're going to just, go with it.
Abundance is all around me. Why does money come to me so easily? Why are abundance opportunities always show up for me? Why I am finding money everywhere I go, and in everything in my life brings me wealth, health, and beautiful love. Now vibrant through and having wealth.
Hello.
Money.
You couldn't get through? It didn't even come show. I didn't even show you coming up. You try it one more time, and then I'll just call you back.
With a salsa beat, with R&B sound, feeling that rhythm all around.
anything you desire. You are the universe. This one heals the body, mind, and soul. It would enable you to experience oneness. Listen during your day to help relax and during your meditation or practice. It helps open the crown and promotes the activation of pineal gland described in the seat of the soul. It'll help remove any mental blockage. It even widens the awakened intuition, activating and calling upon miracles.
I guess it's not working.
Jesus,
I don't know what's going on because I can't.
This frequency allows the listener to align with the divine and unconditional love.
Right. It's not. That's the problem. So I'm like, I don't even see you in here, so it's not working. Yeah, that's what I said. It's okay. So I'm playing stuff until the meantime. And we can talk right from here. That's just I don't have to do that. So let me. I'm doing that, and I've decided to play some music. Okay, so give me one moment. Okay, Corey, can you give me my scan for the cell phone, please? It's on the bed in my bedroom. Could you get I'm live on the show? I just need in the bedroom. I need the stand in my bedroom on the bed. Everything happens for a reason. I don't know why, but it's all good. You miss your all. I made a little commercial for you. Yeah. You got it. Okay. All right. Thank you, son. Appreciate it. It's not gonna work now. Remember, I'm not doing all that stuff. That's not
963.
Thank you. I
Frequency
appreciate
Sofa G.
it. So,
Manifest anything you desire. You are the universe.
all right, everyone. It's been a journey, but we have made it, and I am so grateful. I'm going to have my son check the sound because our illustrious guest has been waiting in the other room and was not able to get through. But guess what? We took a deep breath and breathe. And I hope you listen to the nice music of money and abundance and this, of the frequency of 963 and getting in that energy and opening your mind of the things that you want to see happen for you. So without further ado, I am going to have my guest, Professor Lester Loving, introduce himself to you because this is an outstanding gentleman in our community, in our universe, that I had the pleasure of meeting several years ago and learning so much. So I thought, again, why not share him with the world and don't be selfish? So I'm not going to be selfish. So I'm sharing share you today. So, can you hear me? Okay. All right. Let me see. Got it up as loud as I can. So, tell people about who Professor Lester Loving. How did you become Professor Lester Loving? That is really, I never asked you that.
Well, it's funny because I have a very, I do not like being called professor.
Oh,
No.
sorry.
Everybody calls me professor, but I don't want people to think that I have a degree from a recognized institution. I do not have that. What I have is about 60 some odd years worth of Sherlock Holming about nature and myself and how I fit into that to make all things grow and be nutritious. That's the short version. The official version is that in 1975, around Labor Day, I put a magnet on my head in a joke. And my friend's husband came home and said, well, you know the brain's electromagnetic. You might be doing something to it. So I went to the library to investigate that. And instead, a book fell off, something fell off the shelf, and I was immediately turned to studying the effect of magnets on seeds and seed germination.
Wow.
And I was informed it was an 8-page pamphlet that was on the shelf of the library. I'd never seen a pamphlet in the library before. That's what got my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first thing the pamphlet said was that this knowledge was from the Chinese culture, and it was 5,000 years old.
Whoa.
So, of course, being raised American, this sounded completely bonkers and out of this world. So I had to try it and see if it worked. And it worked more than I could ever imagine. And I've been studying ever since. I was studying before that, but I've been studying ever since about the effect of magnetism, crystals, and pyramids and other shapes on our vegetation and our lives.
Okay. I like that. Can you explain about the Farmer's Almanac?
Sure. I'm laughing because, going to school, they always told us that the United States of America started off as an agricultural country.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, when you deal with growing anything, you're going to have to understand the moon cycles. You're going to have to understand the idea of the solstices and the equinoxes. Also, different regions of the country experience different rates of weather. Like it gets colder in certain places sooner than other places, and warmer in some places versus other places. People since the beginning of organized time have always tried to keep track of agricultural and celestial information in order to know when to plant and when to harvest.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways that modern United States, our early country, was we had people who had knowledge of that, and they put it into a written form, which they called an almanac. And it wasn't just about the seeds, it was also about all kinds of other things. How to make the tools that you're making, how to, animal husbandry, how to raise horses and goats and sheep. It's basically keeping track of the relationship between nature and the things that we're trying to take care of. There were two different major almanacs. I mean, you got to say there were hundreds of almanacs.
Wow.
There were hundreds of almanacs because up until the time that we had major train transportation, we didn't even, people throughout the United States didn't go even by the same time.
True.
Okay, they understood that time in order to make the railroad run. That's why, when I was young growing up, there was always a giant clock in every train station.
Right. Yes, that's true.
And all of them, like when they go to church in the town, they always had they had to make clocks. They had clocks on them because for various reasons, people had to keep account of time. Also, I could always hear my mom or brother say, yeah, but what about, the 40-hour week and, people keeping track of going to work? Well, yeah, that was made a motivation for those people. Okay,
I like that.
But the point I'm trying to make here is that once you had both the printing press, the ability to make copies of things, and you also had transportation where you can distribute things, then the two major almanacs that were out there, there was the one that people are familiar with now that has the yellow cover. And that was one farmer's almanac. And then we had African American who also had his own almanac. The standard or the traditional almanac that most people are familiar with is no longer in physical print. But the one from the African, when he wasn't African American, he was that's still in print. And an almanac is a very good thing the first function it has is to not only show you the sign of the moon, what sign the moon is in, but more equally important is the moon waxing or is it waning? And which part of the year are we in? In the sense that, certain plants take 50 days to mature, others take 100 days. So the almanac was a very good tool because it not only told you what sign the moon was, but it told you when to plant. It told you when to not just harvest, but when to cut stuff back, when to trim stuff, when to transplant. It tickles me now with all this modern, hoo-wah that people always, every time I say something, people go immediately to Google to tell me what Mr. Google has to say. But in fact, the most basic thing we're talking about here is the effect that the moon has on the soil, the rain, and also are we planting something whose fruits or vegetables are above ground or below ground? Because depending on where the fruits or the vegetables are come out, that has a different effect in terms of planting and transplanting.
That's true.
The most basic rule is, things that grow underground are more dominated by the waning moon, that is to say, from the full moon to the new moon. And things that bear their stuff above ground are more dominated by the new moon to the full moon. And of course, there's a lot of wiggle room in that explanation. But it's really, almanac is a written way of keeping track of nature cycles.
I like that. And the moon has an effect on different plants, correct or not correct?
Well, everything's correct, my dear. But I just want to put the car in reverse for a moment.
Okay.
Because before we even get to the effect that it has on the plant, on the green kingdom,
Right.
I want to talk about the effect that we experience every day. And that is the fact that the moon, and to be more scientifically the gravitational effect that the moon has on Earth's water. Okay? Now, we turn on the TV set and, you know, we try to get through the weather to get to all the bad news. But in the weather, they tell us it's high tide today, and they tell us the time, and then they go, it's low tide today. They tell us the time. And usually high tide and low tide, we go through that twice. But the emphasis that I'm trying to put my bow and arrow on is the fact that on the side of the Earth that the moon is facing, the moon, or as I said, the gravitational relationship is such that it's pulling the water from the side that we see. So in other words, when we hear the term high tide, that means that the moon is on the side where that water is, and it's pulling that water upward a foot or so. And so people are like, wow, that's impressive. You know, I'm in Boston, it's pulling the water up from, you know, Boston, you know, up a foot. I'm like, no. The moon is pulling the entire mass of the water on Earth in that direction. So even though in Boston they're experiencing high tide, on the opposite side of the world, where the moon is not fixing, that water is being pulled in our direction, and they experience low tide.
Wow.
And I remember, you know, one of my very first informational things, you know, which, you know, people tend to call lectures, but I was just sharing my glee and joy of the wonders of the world. And I was talking about the fact that the moon has on the water. And, and his brother, you know, is literally a gangster. He pulls out a gun and he points it at me in the lecture. And he goes, what do you have to say about, you know, all this nature stuff? You know, I got this gun right here, you know. I'm not influenced by that. I said, okay, well, I did say that it pulls up all the water to one side of the earth. They're like, so? I said, I failed to mention that it also lifts up the continents at least a foot or two when it's facing that side of the earth. And he put his gun away and sat down. Because I realized, you know, those bullets ain't gonna stop the moon from lifting up the entire landmass that you're sitting in. And that's every day. So I'm really talking about not a metaphysical thing. Everything's metaphysical, but I'm talking about our relationship to those metaphysical pieces of data. You know, in other words, how can we incorporate this to make our lives better, to make our food better, to make our soil better, to make our world better?
I'm sorry. The voice, the thing is cutting in and out on the YouTube, and I'm trying to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping. She said she came in, and that's why you check things. It's a funky energy. I don't know.
We'll work with what we do.
Thank you. I'm blessed. Just keep saying, you're blessed, you're blessed, you're blessed. And Grandma Cindy, help me. And Papa, help me. Papa George, help me. Because they should know. Like, look, this child. Okay, let me see. One more time. As I say, one more again. That's like, it's good. This is a lot of good information that is actually needed, and people don't understand why they need it. Okay, let's go. There we go. Okay. Okay. Now, that is right there. It's speaking right at you.
Right up there. Okay.
That's good. So, Corey, check. Mic check. Mic check.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear him now? Okay. Do it one more time.
I'm in, Commander Cody.
Okay.
Am I speaking to the Batman?
Say what?
I said, am I speaking to the Batman, Mr. Commissioner Gordon?
He said it's clear. It's clear. You got
Okay,
it. You got
good.
it. Woo! Thank you. Energy. Thank you, Grandma
Okay.
Cindy. Thank you, Papa. You guys, we be praying through this. Okay.
Well, see, the thing is, you know, I've been, well, I should say that it was a month ago that April the 20th, I celebrated my 50th year of making pyramids.
Woo!
And even though I've watched our nation go from having a pyramid craze where millions of people were making pyramids to suddenly people were using them for meditation, out-of-body experiences, all manner of things. But one of the things that I've been able to observe all this time is the effect that these various things, and by various things I mean all the tools that we use, the happier the plants are, the more they're able to give us energy that helps us with developing and making that connection to our metaphysical powers. In other words, I say a whole bunch of science data, and data are just pieces of things that we hear.
Right.
But I'm talking about basically having food that energizes us in a way that not only gives us nutrition, that nutrition is there to strengthen our connection with the forces that are out here, both physical and non-physical.
Right. Correct. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's all kinds of things that the scientific community has said, and of course, it's both our job to see if these things are true or not true, and also to see how we can best incorporate them into our lives. So there's a whole smattering of things that people have to say about things like crystals, magnets, and pyramids. And not all of us have the time to test all of these things out.
True.
So I've been blessed, really blessed, to be able to try all these variations and then pass on to people what I have learned. Not so much that I'm a professor, I'm a confessor, in the sense that I'm telling you what I've done. Now you take that and you run with it and see what you do, and then we get back together and we share stuff.
I like that. I like that. But that's what I love about you, because you said, don't believe what I say. Go find out for yourself and test it out. And then you have something to talk about, because then you got to experience yourself. Not just because I said it, you know, which I love.
Well, let's see, once again, you know, as I told you, I can remember the exact day when the media, when I knew the media had a full grip on people, because I had just started my lecture. I was 1 minute into my lecture, And this woman involuntarily held up her phone and said, Wikipedia says this pyramid is a pseudoscience. And I said, I know you did not get up this morning, eat your cereal, put your stuff on, get on the funky subway, come all the way down here to tell me what somebody else said.
Right.
Okay. And once again, you can call me any time of the day or night, and I will walk you through where I got the information, what I did to test it out, and what I learned from it. You can't do that with Google and Mr. Wikipedia.
You can't. I get you. You can't.
Because neither one of them have had dirt under their fingernails.
Right.
Neither one of them. I look at the way the robin lands and walk along the ground and then tilt its head.
Right.
Okay? And it took a Native American elder to tell me that what the robin is doing when he's walking along, and you notice he walks in that little rapid set of steps?
Right.
Okay? Well, he or she is emulating raindrops. The sound of the raindrops hitting the ground, because the robin has learned that the worm is coming toward the surface.
Wow.
If it's raining. And the reason why the robin is coming to the surface, the worm is coming to the surface, is because when the rain falls down into the ground, it soaks up the minerals and what we call nutrition, right. And then that comes back up to the surface. So the worm wants to get to where the heaviest concentration of the nutrition is. And it used to be when I was a kid, after it rained, you couldn't help almost stepping on a worm because they had come out from the water.
That's true. That is true.
And so the robin walks step by step by step by step by step, and then it stops and tilts its head because it's listening to hear the worm coming.
That's incredible. I didn't even know. That's incredible. Okay.
Look, what I'm telling you is, it took me a very long time, and it took patience for me to have the patience to know that the universe was going to provide me with the answers of what I was in fact looking at. Wow. Otherwise I would have just assumed it's just a bird walking along, and by coincidence, he just happened to find a worm.
Right.
No, not at all.
So does that apply for all birds or just the robin itself?
The robin is the specialist in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, some birds can do that, but normally they hear, but they don't do that stepping thing to attract the worms to the surface.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Because I know, I remember digging up worms as kids, and but we used to cut them up just so that they would, regrow. That's like what they were like. We used to cut up worms. I don't know, maybe we're some vicious kids. We just wasn't the worm to regrow.
Well, look, it wasn't. Okay, kids are always in a state of learning.
Right.
We can call it play. We can call it whatever we want to call it. Right. But the kid's not sitting there going, I must learn about this robin. But we're learning about the world that we've been introduced to.
This is true.
And the idea, what we're really learning when we cut up the worms, because most kids cut up the worms, at least back in the day.
Right.
Well, we were really studying without putting a name to it. We were learning about the fact that in nature there's a whole bunch of regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
That a tree, the wind will come and break a branch off, and the branch will fall down from the tree. But if it sticks in the ground, it can regrow.
This is true.
Okay, and there are many legends and some evidence that people had a greater ability to regenerate back in the day than we do now.
That I've heard of several times.
Okay.
You ever hear of Dr. Klaus? Jethro Klaus? 1930.
Yeah, sure.
What is that book? Back to Eden?
Back to Eden, yes.
Yes. He was the one that I learned that from. Reading that book, he said our body's supposed to regenerate it, but we have done so much. He said, what was this word? We have done so much damage and polluting of our body. Now our body does not regenerate. And I remember saying that we need to really, really watch what we eat, watch what we do. It's a big book, ladies and gentlemen. It's not for the faint heart.
Right.
It's not for the faint heart, but that's in one of my collections because it was updated. You know, he and the Klaus family, and he went all the way back. Like they had, what was it, a Santrium? What is it called? A Santrium where they were healing and what we would call a spa today, but they called it something else back in the 30s. I don't remember, but I love that. So that knowledge that you're but giving and sharing with us is amazing, especially about the energy, just listening to nature itself.
Well, first of all, I mean that's only about a third of the explanation, because and I appreciate what you said, but the first thing that I had to do, the first question that I had, and I've had this since I was a kid, long before I started studying. You know, I would think about something, and then I go, well, has anybody thought about this before? You know, like, has anybody, ever had, I don't know, an indoor garden?
Right.
Right. And because I come from the city, I grew up in the city, I didn't know people that had that. But I went and looked, and luckily there was this thing called the encyclopedia. And I looked, and in fact, I found that there had been people that had that. So the point I'm making is that when I got sent on this journey, I was asking the most basic question, which is, have other people in the past thought about this? And if they have, what conclusions did they come to? Now, I was specifically asking that question about magnetism and crystals.
Right.
And so I went to my encyclopedia, because back then you couldn't just go to Barnes and Nobles and pick out whatever you wanted, And for a lot of the books that are crystals, I had to send off for California, because that's where the people who were doing the research. So I couldn't wait for the book to come. I mean, the book was coming, but I went to the encyclopedia, and I just happened to remember that when they had a thing about each country, so they tell you the population, they tell you the square miles, which was meaningless. No one understood what that meant, and they told you, but they also had a thing where they told you what their major agricultural crops were, and what their minerals were, what mining they did, and what ancient peoples discovered, as far as crystals were concerned. And so I was like, okay, so people have been mining for a very long time. And then I would turn the pages, and they'd always talk about their religious beliefs in terms of what each of these crystals did. So I just made a list of each of the name of the countries that had crystals, and then I put at the top, some people believe it was for prayer, some people believe it was for healing, some people believe it was for strength, and I just made a giant collection of things, and I started to see similarities. For example, no matter where I went in the world in my encyclopedia, people always collected quartz crystals. They knew there was something about quartz crystals. When they did the renovation work down in Wall Street area, I forget, this is like, 30 years ago or something. And they were digging up stuff and they found the old, what they call Negro burial ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they found several hundred remains of people. And then some other people took it up and started looking for Negro burial grounds in Brooklyn and Queens. And then other people expanded it out to the United States. And you know what they found? And it was printed right in Smithsonian magazine. They found that in every Negro burial site, I don't mean the cemetery itself, I mean each of the places where people were interred, they always put some form of quartz in that casket. Every black casket had quartz in it.
Nice.
We don't forgot that.
Yes.
Okay. Now people get like, look, I got this rare titanium quartz infused. I'm like, look, we've known about that forever. Okay. Then of course I learned the slow hard way. I want to repeat that. I learned the slow hard way that when I was researching anything, why am I wasting my time? First place I should always look is ancient Egypt, called Kemet.
Right.
Okay, because these people, unlike what they say now, they weren't advanced, they couldn't have built this stuff. No, I'm like, well, let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the evidence. Okay? And I didn't have to look too far when it came to quartz because certain things spanked me. Just like go out in the yard and get a switch.
I remember.
Oh, no, a thinner one. Oh, okay. Because first thing I stumbled across was the fact that these Kemites had windows. And I was foolish enough to think, oh my God, I didn't know the Egyptians invented glass or had glass. Wow. And in fact, I had made a mistake because they had invented glass. They don't like to talk about it.
Right.
Okay, but that's not what the encyclopedia was talking about. The original windows that these ancient Egyptians had was quartz. They made their windows out of quartz, and so they also made their glasses. I was like, wait, they had glasses?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? This is all there. I'm like, what? And then of course that's when the big switch came, because it was like, well, of course they had, because the white part of the eye, the switch was made out of quartz. I was like, okay, we're done here. We're done.
I like that. Wow, that is, see, always go back. Like I said,
yeah, you gotta go back to go forward. That's
true. That's the only way you're gonna learn and feel like I like that, the quartz, because what was that? There was a battery. The battery that they discovered in one of the two.
Oh, you mean the Baghdad battery?
Yes.
Once again, you just my grandma used to say, you tickling my funny bone. Okay. And what I mean by that is, the first thing is, it's called the Baghdad battery.
Baghdad.
Okay. And so I had to think about that culture. Okay. But the reason why you tickling my funny bone is because to this day, it's referred to as the Baghdad battery, when in fact, when Napoleon went over to Egypt in 1799, they found thousands of batteries, but nobody called it the Cairo battery.
I like that. See, so much technology.
Well, we're going to break this down. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm not going to go into the whole racialized and culturalized, and these people couldn't have done that because, there's thousands of people that talk about that.
Right.
Erasing our culture and all that. I'm going to talk about something else. I want to talk about the fact that, what is the basics of the Baghdad battery? Okay,
Right.
the basics is that you got some kind of vessel,
Right.
and usually it was ceramic,
Right.
and then you've got a lid, so it's got an opening,
Correct.
and on the lid you've got two holes,
Bingo.
and they would put one copper rod in one hole,
Right.
and they put an iron rod or some other metal in the second hole.
Correct.
So now it's extended down into the pottery, and before you put the lid on, you pour water or vinegar
Yep.
into that. You close up the lid, and as soon as those two rods are imbued in the water, you now have the flow of electrons from one rod to the other.
Sure.
And if you just put your wires up to the positive, negative, just like the battery on the car, okay, now you can run stuff.
All right.
And of course, the first thing I should say that one of the things we know they did was to electroplate their jewelry.
Right.
Okay, so that means they had an understanding of electricity.
Yes, totally.
Okay, but the reason I'm babbling is because when Napoleon and his crew went over to Egypt, and don't for a second believe that they went over there to fight a war. Okay, this was a data grab of the international kind.
Right.
Okay, because Mr. Ampere, who was one of the savants that he took with him, as soon as he came back, he started reproducing something he saw there, and suddenly he's given credit for inventing the battery.
Don't even know.
But see, what's the difference? What's the difference between the Baghdad battery and the modern battery? It's simple. Okay, the Baghdad battery and the ancient Egyptian battery and all these batteries, because we find them all over the world.
Right.
They ran using some kind of liquid, and eventually the exchange of electrons from one rod to another, you'd use up that energy.
Right.
Okay? And so, of course, you threw that battery away. No, you took the lid off, you emptied out the water, you let the rods dry out, you put new water or vinegar in, you put it back on, that battery lasts forever.
Reusable.
Okay? Duracell, on the other hand, and that's called a dry cell battery.
Correct.
Now, I learned that in school, but they never told me about the wet cell versus the dry cell.
That's true.
And the wet cell will last a lot longer. You got to keep your rods polished, etc. But these are just different ways of looking at and addressing a problem.
This is true.
And this is what I want to pass on to people. I am not asking people. Not only am I not asking people to believe what I say, Lord have mercy. I don't want them to copy me. That's not how nature works.
Right.
Nature takes whatever and combines it with the environment and the circumstances and whatever it has in that area, and it will do something different. It'll do the same thing, but differently.
Right.
Okay. So, it might be that the next crew, these young people coming up, they might come up with the air battery. Wow. That it doesn't need chemicals, because the dry cell battery needs chemicals.
Yes.
And the wet cell needs water. But what if they come up with the air battery? We come into Aquarium, it's going to be air.
Right.
It's going to be a combination of air and water.
Right. And I like the wet battery because people don't talk about the wet battery also, but the wet battery I learned from studying Edgar Casey, you can use it for
Oh,
different
yes.
healing of the body. And my
That's
friend was like,
right.
what? I was like, yep. He talks about it in his readings. So I like to recreate different things to see for myself if it really works, you know?
Part of recreation is recreation.
There you go.
Having fun doing what you're doing. Now, it's so funny that you mentioned Edgar, because Edgar plays a very large role in my life. You know, both studying him, studying what he did, and you know, he channeled or received information that was not common knowledge, and
Right.
and of course the people of that time were very skeptical. But when they measure stuff, it healed people.
Right.
Okay, it absolutely, and now some of the things that they all poo-pooed is standard operational procedure.
Bingo.
That's not what I'm going to talk about, though.
Okay.
What I'm going to talk about in terms is the fact that in Rome, they heard about stuff that they'd seen when they traveled around and conquered other people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they noticed is that a lot of times when people were sick, they would take them to a pool of water or a small pond that had eels in it. And the electroshock from those eels, in a lot of cases, would speed up the rate of healing.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that there's a relationship between electricity and human health.
Bingo.
Okay? Because, you know, I mean, as quiet as it's kept,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for 30 years now, I've had the people talk to me about healing. Can this pyramid be used for healing? Can these crystals be used for healing? Can these vegetables, all this stuff, healing, you know? And I said, well, excuse me, but even when a person has cancer of the liver, most of their other stuff is still functioning.
Correct.
So let's first talk about health. And first thing I do when I go on any adventure, I go to the dictionary to look up the origin of the word.
Okay.
I'm not focused on what culture it comes from. I pay attention to that, but I want to know what that word, what the original concept was that people had. And so when I looked up the word health and healthy, it came from a Latin word which meant whole.
Okay.
WHOLE.
Yep.
No, not the other kind. Okay, so what I'm saying is, my first focus is on maintaining health, not just, you know, getting back to health.
Right.
So I had to look up the scientific definition of health. The scientific definition of health.
Right.
Okay? And the scientific definition of health, don't even pretend I'm going to give one answer. There's more than one definition of health. But the one that got my attention, it said a healthy system will give off more energy than it takes in. I said, oh, God. Our political system, our medical system, okay, you know, and I can go on and on. Most of those things, by definition, are not fully healthy.
Right. This is true.
Let me stop at education.
Okay. Won't go there.
It's not even going there because it's obvious. It is obvious that they teach us everything possible to detract us from giving off more.
I should. Totally.
Okay, so I, Grandma Cindy, in her own understated way, she'd tell me all these things, and my mind would just expand and explode. And she'd go, "Now, you got to think small like a seed."
Wow.
And so I have blessed her for that many, many times because I want to build a pyramid. They're like, "Nigga, you can't even cut a block yet. Let them move it. What are you talking about?" So I literally started paying attention to the plant world and finding out from them what they determined was healthy for them. Not just what my idea was or, what was in the back of the package that was selling me something, fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
What can we see that tells us that plant is healthy? It's whole. Remember the definition is whole.
Right.
Okay. And about 20 years ago, because people always want to take me out to dinner, to talk.
Right.
And about 20 years ago, I said, I appreciate that you take me to all these wonderful places, but most of this food is tired. And they're like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "It doesn't even have enough energy to give off energy to me." We're literally enslaving the very plant. We're treating them like they were slaves.
Right.
We're gonna grow you in the fastest time possible. We're not gonna give you, we're gonna, grow you under unnatural conditions, and then we're gonna harvest you and put you in a truck and drive you 1,000 miles to somewhere else. Don't you ever love it? I think to be healthy after all that.
Right.
So, and then of course, there were always signposts letting me know in which direction to go in. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is in the early 70s, suddenly we had books about this thing called macrobiotics.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Okay? And of course, being in the early 70s, us alternative type people were looking for anything and everything to get us out of the swamp that we were living in. And I'm reading what the man said, and one of the things about macrobiotics, he said that you eat the food that's closest to you.
That's true.
Your food should not be more than 10 miles from where you are.
Wow. See?
Okay. And my brain exploded. Because I realized from reading previous to that,
mm-hmm.
that one of the major motivations of them building the Brooklyn Bridge was to get the source of food that they were growing out on Long Island to Manhattan in a quicker manner. They used to have to go through Queens, up to the Bronx, and down into Manhattan. So the food, even if it was only grown 10 miles away, it took half a day or a day for it to get there.
Right.
And that's still fresher than most of the stuff we're getting now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not to discount Dorito mac and cheese. Yeah, I saw it in the store the other day. Dorito flavored mac and cheese. So they took the Dorito dust and they put that little package. So
oh,
put it on there.
Stop. It's almost like the flaming. What is it? The flaming.
Yeah. Flaming Cheetos. Yes. All that.
Really?
Yeah.
But you know that stuff catches on fire. Those flaming Doritos actually catch on fire?
That's what they call them, flaming, my dear.
They actually catch on fire. I found that out. Like, ooh, you want a fire starter? That's what you use. So
Hey,
wouldn't eat it,
yeah.
but fire starter. Yeah.
Remember when we were growing up, we turned on the TV, and whoever the athlete of the time was, they'd have it in the commercial.
Yeah.
And and then they'd have them selling Wheaties.
Yep, I remember Wheaties commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Have you eaten your Wheaties today?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm old enough to remember when it used to say, fortify with iron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, one day, somebody took a magnet and put it up to the box, and all the flakes went to the magnet. Because the iron they were putting in there was not in the form that was readily human can assimilate. That's right.
Bingo.
Like you say, question everything.
Yes.
And then question it again.
Right. And find out the source. That's always my thing, because my grandmother said when the computers came out, people make mistakes. And because of that, we're so trusting. So you got to find out who's behind the company or whatever they're putting out. Is their agenda? If it's a university, is it a lobbyist? It's some reason where they're putting that out there. What are they trying to do? What is the goal? If there is no goal and they don't make anything from it, then you can do that, but you still want to double check even that, because that's how propaganda begins. Oh, okay, well, yeah, but you get more people, like Darwin's theory. The more you say it, then it becomes a fact. No, that's not true. That's not true. But according to them, like Darwin's theory, oh, okay, a hypothesis. I remember in school that it was a hypothesis. Now Darwin's theory is a fact. When did it become fact?
Well, see, once again, I had the unfortunate calamity when I was young of learning to read. And so I read Darwin's book about the species.
Right.
Okay. And I had a bunch of questions.
Same.
I wasn't a rebellious person. I had a bunch of follow-up questions to what he said. The man made his observations 150 years before I read them.
Right.
Okay. There might have been some updates.
Right.
But I didn't have to do any Sherlock Holmes detective work. You know why? You know why? Because motherfucker, right next to that book was his follow-up book that he wrote 10 years later. And I opened that book, and you know what Mr. Charles said?
What did Mr. Charles?
I got some questions about that book I wrote 10 years ago.
I like that.
So I said, thank you very much. See, that's a scientist. Now, what they did in twisting what he said, that's a whole nother agenda.
Bingo.
Okay, and this is not the space for that. There's all kinds of people that are experts on that area. Right. I'm here to pass on, the beauties that I have been shown and uncovered.
Right.
I do have to tell you this just for racial equity time.
Right.
Okay. I had built my first pyramid April the 20th. And I decided, and my first pyramid was a 12 by 12 inch pyramid. So that meant it was 7 or 8 inches tall.
Right.
Okay. As soon as I did the first experiment, and I was convinced it was not going to work. Okay. I was not a believer. And after I said to the Lord, can I put up my pants now? Because I've been spanked hard this time. So I went out and I built a 12 by 12 foot pyramid.
Uh-huh.
And I built it so that I could do experiments inside of it, but I also wanted people to experience it without me telling them anything about it.
Bingo.
So we decided to have parties once a month. So people would just come over and they sit in the room, and we didn't say anything about it. They sit in the room and whatever, blah blah blah. Well, about 3 or 4 months later, this gentleman shows up on my back door. He knocks on the door. I got the screen door open. It's Kansas. It's 100 degrees. And I come to the door. He says, "Yeah, I came about the pyramids." And this is Bubba. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy. He looks like the center for the football team.
Wow.
He's got the biggest neck. His neck is as thick and as wide as his head. And he is completely redneck because he's a farmer. Okay? And he says, "I'm here about the pyramids." I said, "Come on in." And he says, "No, I'm here to tell you about the pyramids." I said, "Oh?" He said, "Yeah, come with me." So we get in this truck and we drive out to the country. And about an hour into the drive, I suddenly hear this voice in my head go, "Negro body found in ditch." Like so and luckily about 5 minutes after that, the man says, "Here's my place." And we pull into his farm. He's got the windmill, the barn, the red barn, the whole 9 yards. Every stereotype you can imagine.
Right.
And so we pull up in his truck. I open the door to get out of his truck, and his five kids come running up to me, and they say, "Mister." I said, "Yes." He says, "We haven't used a refrigerator in 5 years. We use our pyramids."
Whoa.
And I was like, "Wait a minute. This is your stereotypical white farmer family."
Okay.
That was supposedly not knowing anything.
Right.
And they got all kinds of pyramid and other technologies that, as Bubba was telling me, it's an underground thing with the farmers. They all share this knowledge because they know it. They all know it increases the plant growth. They know it, not just the plant growth, but the nutrition in the plant, and helps with warding off the insects.
Bingo.
And so I was like, "Oh, come on now, Lord. This is beyond." And then it goes, now, after my mind was blown, after an hour of him telling me all the stuff that he had done for years. I'm new to the game, right?
Right.
Right? And he says, "Okay, now we're going to go outside and I'm going to show you how the Egyptians made it rain." Okay, we're done with racism now. Bubba's going to show me my heritage. And he proceeded to show me. He goes, "Now I want you to look over yonder." And it's a clear blue sky. And in Kansas, you can see for 10 miles in the sky. You can hear the airplane 20 minutes before you see it. Okay? And so I'm looking. He points this thing up in the sky. And it's nothing, 5 minutes. There's suddenly this little puffy cloud. And I'm like, "Oh, that's a coincidence."
No, it's not.
5 minutes later. No, 5 minutes. I didn't know. 5 minutes later, I look and the cloud is twice as big. I'm like, that ain't no coincidence. Because it ain't moving.
Right.
It's directly from where he's pointing this device. 15 minutes, the cloud turns black. Well, dark. And 21 minutes later, it's raining.
Wow. Okay.
I'm telling you the story because I realized I had to get my ass back to the library and then put some stuff in the ground.
Right.
Debate is over.
There you go. I like when you were talking about that you had left some grain in your pyramid in your house as an experiment. And I was like, wow. Now, my knowledge is as you guys know, is not extensive, but I love pyramids. I've always had I like connection or feeling with the pyramid.
Sure.
Then a gentleman told me if I take my knives and put my knives in a pyramid,
It'll stay sharper longer.
right? And I was like, what? He was like, yeah. So you put your fruits under it, and your fruits stay longer and better. That's what I learned, and that's who was it? This guy name was Mike. Mike. Nick the pyramid guy. I met him at a Living Expo, and that's what he was, telling me. Oh, put your fruit under it, but it has to be at a certain degree. And on his pyramid, it was made out of alloy metal, and it had a compass on it. So you had to have it like really facing north. So I didn't understand, like I'm starting to understand. There's the Giza pyramid, which is supposed to be 51.8 or 51.
Right. 85, yes, 51.85.
And what is the Nubia pyramid?
Yes.
And I don't know the measurements for that one. And then they were talking about a Russian pyramid. Now the Russian one I was shocked about. I was like, what?
Listen, you just described what I'm going to be talking about for the next 15 minutes. Okay? It is exactly in that order. Exactly in that order.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. And once again, when I met Grandma Cindy, she was 89 years old, and I was 7 years old.
Right.
And I had the extreme, and she would come every year for 3 or 4 weeks at the beginning of springtime to help me and my mother set up the garden. And that was 10 years. So the last time I saw her, she was 99. And I did not appreciate, there was no way for me to appreciate the importance of living for a long time.
Right.
Okay? And I say that, of course, obviously, she lived to be 100, which she did. That's one thing. But I'm talking about myself now.
Right.
In terms of having lived through this entire pyramid experience.
Right.
So let me start at the beginning.
Okay.
In terms, I'm going to break down everything that you talked about.
Okay.
We know, and I say we, because outside of the United States, pyramids have been studied for at least, at this point, 90 years, scientifically explored. They know a lot, millions and millions of people have used pyramids on a daily basis for keeping their razor blade sharp. Okay, but that's not where I'm going. That's not where I'm going today.
Okay.
We know there's a couple of things that make a pyramid work. First thing is the shape.
Right.
Okay. And but we got to introduce something into that shape in order to have the function that we're talking about, sharpening the razor blades, keeping the food fresh, et cetera, so on. And there are 3 things that I have narrowed it down to. First thing is magnetism, the Earth's magnetism. Okay? There's magnetism. We see this image of the magnet. I've seen it since first grade or second grade. The North Pole stuff comes out of the North Pole, and it goes all the way around the Earth and goes down to the South Pole. Right?
Right.
You know that image. Everybody knows that image.
Right.
Okay. Well, when we talk about torus or toroidal energy, the torus field, right?
Right.
Well, the torus field, when it comes to Earth, the torus field is not from north to south. The torus field is from above the equator to below the equator. So if the magnetism of the Earth is coming out, because it's coming out everywhere,
Right.
If it's coming out 10 degrees above the equator, it goes to the equator, and then you got a complementary field. So if I'm above the equator, it's the north, it's coming out to the equator. And then you've got another one from the exact same latitude below the equator coming up to meet it at the equator, which is called the eclinic zone. That's where the energy gets neutralized. The point I'm making is that magnetism is everywhere on the Earth, and it's a very weak field. Okay, our kitchen magnets are stronger than the Earth's magnetism, but the Earth's magnetism is everywhere. So, in order for a pyramid to work, we need magnetism. Second thing we need, and that's in science we call that local reality. Okay, I mean I'm stretching the definition a little bit, but it's still called local reality. That's from here. That's something we get from our environment. Second thing, we have this thing called cosmic background radiation. That not only comes from space, it's everywhere in space, and it was there right after the Big Bang, and it's been expanding as long as the universe has been expanding. Okay? That automatically goes into a pyramid shape. That's automatic. We don't have to do anything. We have to think about it. No. And let's see, once again, we're using this word pyramid. Well, that's not what the Kemites called it. They called it a Merkut. And okay, and the word Merkut, or the MR of the Merkut part, it means two forces that come together and something that results out of that. So obviously we know that they understood there was magnetism and cosmic background radiation that came together, and that energy, those combination of those two energies, is the energy that makes a pyramid run. Right. Then we got the third component. Oh, slow your roll, son. Okay. And that is, of course, consciousness. Okay? I don't just stand in front of my pyramid and say, I'm thinking nothing. I'm like, I want abundance, I want health, I want this, I want, the big booty girl, I want all that. Like, that's consciousness. So let's take this one at a time. Okay? We know, because since 1800, the Europeans have been telling us that the Great Pyramid is aligned with the magnetic pole. If I was on the side of the pyramid and I started walking north, from the edge of that pyramid, I would hit the North Pole. Sure. So, and many pyramids throughout the world are aligned to the north.
Right.
So that's telling us there's some connection with magnetism and the pyramid.
Right.
Okay. Now, suppose, for example, that you got this ideal place to put your pyramid. Like say, I'm not talking about the Buddhist temple. No, I'm a Negro. I'm talking about your backyard garden.
Right.
Okay? But it ain't facing north and south.
Sure. Sometimes it's not, right?
Okay. What do I do then? Well, it just so happens that the all creative universe, it will find, umpteen ways to get us over the goal line. And one of the ways that it does that, and for those people who have pyramids already that you purchased, Dr. Fred Bell, who was the leading pyramidologist in this country until he passed on 3 years ago, he quit his job at NASA to start making pyramids and selling pyramids to the public. And what made his pyramid so unique and wonderful is the fact that through his regular science, he knew that anytime you put two metals next to each other, the electrons from that one metal will travel over to the other metal and vice versa. And let's go to 8th grade science. When electrons are moving, we have electricity and we have a magnetic field.
Right.
So when you said your friend had the brother was talking about Pyramid Mike, you said?
No, his name is Pyramid Nick. They call him Pyramid Nick.
Nick.
He made it out of alloy metals, and he.
No, that's what I'm saying. That what I'm saying is, anytime you put two magnets. Anytime you put two metals next to each other, it's going to create its own magnetic field, and therefore that pyramid does not have to face north or south.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You can have it on your head as a disco, and no matter where you turn, you got your pyramid on.
Okay.
Okay, this led to, by the 90s, this had led to the fact that people say, only a metal pyramid will work. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. But that's how people translated it, but that's the reason for the alloy.
Right.
Okay, so that's issue number one, magnetism.
Okay.
Okay, issue number two. And we might want to put this under the category of okadokery. Okadokery, yes, okadokery. Okay. I always wondered, and I say this because at this point I've seen more than 1,000 pyramid documentaries. Mm-hmm. I watch everything, even the stuff that I don't agree with. I watch it. I watch everything, and because even a lot of times, even when they say something that I don't scientifically agree with, they'll say something else that opens up my brain in a whole other way too. So it's like we're all investigating. We're all Sherlock.
Right.
Okay. Anywho. And I, of course, documentary after documentary after documentary talked about the Great Pyramid. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then occasionally they'll throw in the two other people next to them, the other two pyramids, and they'll say the Pyramid Complex or the Giza Complex. Okay, and the main emphasis that they always put on it is the Great Pyramid is a 51-degree angled pyramid.
Right.
Now, they couldn't have determined that until the 20th century because when they took the outside covering off of most of the Great Pyramid, it was piled up 2 or 3 stories high, so no one could measure the bottom. No one could measure the angle. And they removed most of the. Luckily, they left 3 of the stones, so that's how we know the angle: 51 degrees, 51 minutes, or 51.85, like you said.
Right. Okay.
Okay, but that's not okay.
Oh.
That's not okay, my sister. For the simple reason I said this is under the category of okadokery.
It did. Okay. Under okadokery.
Okay. Because all we gotta do. See, all we have to do is go to any of those books that list all the pyramids in Egypt, because they're fond of telling us the pyramid, and then they're telling us where it's located. They tell us how high it is, and occasionally you get a list that tells you all the angles. Okay?
Right.
Over 50%. Way over 50% of the pyramids in Egypt are not 51 degrees. They're 42 degrees. So I said, hold up, wait a minute. I was always led to believe that there was something special about this exact 51 degrees. 51 degrees and 51 minutes and 20 seconds, 51.75.
Right.
Okay. Well, it just so happens that the universe, or as we say around here, the eternally creative intelligence, ECI said, you need to study the rainbow. And so I said, okay. And, and of course, in my ignorant state, I said, well, what does that have to do with pyramids? And they said, did you hear me? And I'm like, yes, sir, I hear you. So I went over and the book said to me that a rainbow has three components. It's got the sunlight, which comes from behind. It's got the water droplet that's in the air,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got the observer.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. And they also said that the observer has to be between 38 and 45 degrees from the rainbow, or you can't see it.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? So, of course, coincidentally, right after I read this, my friend is driving us down the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a rainbow.
no, there was no rainbow.
What? Okay.
And we're just driving along, and suddenly there's a rainbow. And my friend's like, look, there's a rainbow. And I said, pull over to the shoulder. And he pulled over to the shoulder. I said, back up, but keep looking at the rainbow. And we backed up, and suddenly that rainbow was gone.
Mm.
And I knew that we were not in that angle. I said, drive forward. We drove forward, and the rainbow appeared again. So I knew what they were saying, that the observer had to be at 42 degrees.
Okay.
And the light goes into the water droplet.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to the back of the water droplet, and then it refracts. It goes back out.
Right. That's okay. Right.
Both of those are 42 degrees.
Okay.
And then I looked at my book, and 75% of the pyramids in Egypt were 42 degrees.
Okay.
And you say, okay. I was not okay.
Well, I'm okay because I can understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is the universe is trying to tell me that there's a direct relationship between that 42 degree angle and visible light.
Right.
Our perception of visible light starts at 42 degrees. And most of the pyramids in Egypt were 42 degrees. Okay, so being the dunderhead that I am,
Mm-hmm.
against all these books out there, I started making pyramids at different angles.
Whoa, okay.
Okay? Because all the books said it's got to be exact. It's got to be exactly 51 degrees, and the pyramid has to be exact, or it won't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through this process enough times by now to know, before I go out here and start making every angle under the sun,
Mm-hmm.
let me see what nature has done.
Yep.
And so in nature, I found the 8 most common angles, and I made pyramids from those 8 common angles, and they all tended to work. There was nothing unique about the angle of the 51 degree pyramid. It was the pyramid shape itself.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so, and then there was another bonus. This was the double Jeopardy round. Okay, because I went back to my original teacher, the Great Pyramid. I went back,
Right.
and I looked at the base. I looked at the base of the Great Pyramid.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't mean I physically looked at it. I mean, I went through notes and I compared, other pyramids or measured all this stuff. And guess what I found right off the bat? Not one. There's no two. The pyramid is not equal on any of the corners.
Oh. Not. Okay.
And And so I said, wait a minute, the base length of all four sides, none of them are equal. So I said, Lord, you got, I said, I am asking you to explain this to me. Now, you know, I'll do the research or other things, but you got to explain this to me. And immediately it took me to Peru. And I'm reading about the Peruvians and all the monuments that they built.
Right.
And these modern scientists are going down there and, you know, they're able to make stone completely smooth and curved. They're putting stuff in without any mortar, you know, just remarkable building, right?
Right.
And yet each of these 20th century Western scientists have said, for some reason, these buildings and these pyramids are not exactly equal. We know they had the ability to make them completely equal, but every one of them is slightly not equal. And so then they went to the native people and they said, do you have any idea why these buildings are not equal? And the people said, only God is complete. So I said, oh, this hurt me. And so then the universe said, no, you're not done with your spanking yet. Go over here to the physics department.
Oh, gosh.
So I went over to the physics department. And I'm describing my question, but I'm not using pyramids, but I'm describing to the professor. And I'm saying, well, why is this, you know, why, you know, in nature do I find that things are slightly off? He says, that promotes more movement when they're not balanced.
Wow. Okay.
We're done. Can I drop the mic?
Wow.
Okay. So, I'm the old G who's here to tell all these people, don't worry about your pyramids not perfect.
Okay.
It's not going to be perfect no matter what you do. Okay? And it goes back to what I said before. The pyramid works on magnetism, cosmic background radiation, and consciousness. So perfect the consciousness, not the pyramid.
I like that. People want to say hello. Eddie was saying hello, salutation. And there was another gentleman, I forgot his name. He was saying love to all. Kia Gu said love to you. And then we got a lot of people, you know, in and out of the room coming. FW Healing Center, FW Healing Center. I put a picture of you with these pyramids when you're with a yellow sweater, yellow and black sweater with a green cap on your head. She wanted.
Well, see, you know what's funny about that?
Right.
That is the most photographed shape of me. There are more pictures of me with that shape.
Okay.
Okay. That shape is called an icosahedron.
Icosahedron. Okay.
It is one of the five platonic solids or sacred geometry.
Okay.
That shape, I'm looking at that very shape right now. That is 18 years old. I made that 18 years ago, and it's still around.
So the person wanted to know, is it made out of carbon?
That pyramid?
Is that made out of carbon?
Most things are made out of carbon, my dear.
Okay.
That is actually it's funny. It's funny you say that. It's funny that the person said that. Okay, because there's this whole thing about materials, and everybody wants to get their, you know, get all the super intense materials, whatever. That pyramid is made out of foam core board and since a lot of people are not familiar with foam core board, a lot of people are, but a lot of my pyramids are made out of cardboard.
Okay. See.
Okay. And in the case of that particular pyramid, it's made out of foam core board, which they, you know, like whenever time you have a lecture and you put stuff on that board, that's foam core board.
Okay.
And then it has several layers of gesso, which is a primer. Then there is plaster on it, which I sand down. And then in the case of that particular pyramid, there is copper paint. There was a type of paint back in the day that you painted on, and the paint evaporated, and it was just a line of copper.
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, and then I put another metal next to that because everybody was convinced that the pyramid had to be made out of metal. And then I put the color on, and what you can't tell from the picture is those white lines is glow-in-the-dark paint.
See? Oh, wow. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Okay, and I combine all manner of things together now. But I want to tell everybody, because this is my experience. When I started, millions of people had pyramids in their houses, and most of them were made from cardboard. They were not painted. They didn't have any special stuff on them. There was no metal. Some people could afford to have metal, but then you got to glue it, to weld it, and all this other stuff.
Bingo. That one.
And then, of course, as I've been trying to indicate, my field is agronomy. Agronomy. The difference in agronomy and agriculture is agriculture just deals with the plants,
Right.
but agronomy deals with the soil, the water supply, the composting, the recycling, all that, once again, through cosmic guidance, okay, let me back up here for just a second. Every year, my mother would have me come home and construct a pyramid over her garden.
Wow.
And yeah, I would not be here without Grandma Cindy and my mom, because they both understood on a just direct way. Like, in other words, they didn't have to read any books. They could feel it. They're like, yeah, that's it. That's it. And then when she saw the difference in the plant, she knew. It was just obvious. So, and what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way was that my mother's garden was, by coincidence, all three houses she lived in, her garden was 50 by 50 feet.
Wow.
And that was just inconvenient for getting 10-foot copper rods and gluing them together and having, it could be done. And it wasn't that expensive, but, nature builds up to complex systems from simple parts.
Right.
And so, I'm saying all this to say that I did not just intellectually figure this out. I got spiritual guidance. I got all kinds of coincidental articles would show up. I'd be next to somebody at a bar and they'd say something, all this stuff.
Right.
Because I'd really stop and go, what are you saying? They're like, oh, well, you're not interested. This is what, yes, I am. Okay. And so thinking about it, just thinking about it, okay, I'm like, these plants are not only, moving because of the wind and whatever, they're spiraling.
Right.
We see that on all the, when they do that time-lapse photography,
Mm-hmm.
and the seeds coming to the ground, they're not going straight up, they're spiraling.
Yeah.
And that's because the earth is turning. And then, just a few years ago, well, actually last year,
Uh-huh.
this term that I had learned 50 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I could not find out any information about this. I mean, I found out one thing and it didn't fit. But
Right.
the universe brought me this thing, right? It's called mutation.
Mutation.
Not mutation, mutation.
Mutation. Right.
Okay? And I learned just last year that the roots of the plant, they go down, but they spiral down. And they spiral at the angle that our Earth is tilted.
Okay.
Okay, and that was mutation. So I had to hold on to that word for 50 years to find out how it related to my field.
Okay.
Okay, so you got the upper part of the plant that we see is spiraling in one direction, and the roots are spiraling in the opposite direction at the same angle.
Ooh.
So, in a moment, in a flash of insight, I said, well, what would best harmonize with something that's spiraling?
Yeah.
And of course, I could talk to you for a whole nother day about how this came about, but I won't even tell you the in between part. I got to the point where I realized that string would be an even more powerful material for a garden than any metal ever could be.
String.
That's right.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Well, I don't see anybody discriminating against any of the other materials.
Well, you know, you got the polyplastic. That's what
no. What I'm saying is, it's the vibration.
Okay.
Just like well, a guitar, you hit that string, it vibrates.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Okay.
that piano wire, on and on. Yes. That was the first thing I tried. I made my first plant pyramid out of piano wire.
Okay.
And as soon as I plucked that one side, there were certain plants that would spiral.
Wow.
They would literally respond to the vibration.
I would think so.
Yeah. So I'm not discouraging people from getting metal pyramids for the garden, but I'm saying that, you know, you don't have to. The material does not have to be that dense and that solid. It's actually better if there's vibration.
I like that. So,
okay. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna be doing this. Y'all just don't know. For my garden.
Oh no.
I'm got.
No, you and I want to do some kind of video where, you know, we're gonna do this.
Yes.
I do this all the time. Okay, now let's get to the third part, the Russian experiment. Okay. Now, see, for a very long time, people, and of course, they had every right to think about the idea of being inside of a pyramid.
Right.
Because the difference between what the ancient peoples did and what we do now is that 95 to 99% of their pyramids were solid.
Okay.
There was only a very small area inside of those pyramids that had openings.
True.
We are making skeletal pyramids that we're just making the outline of the shape. And therefore there's much more open room inside of our pyramids. We know that regardless of what the angle is, that there's a concentration of the energy 1/3 of the way up from the base. So, you know, any pyramid we make, we can either sit in that area or the plants will eventually grow up into that area. But a pyramid always has the energy throughout it. It's more concentrated in the middle, about 1/3 of the way up.
Right.
Okay? But I'm saying all this to say, because of the examples that we've seen from the past, We have been focused to think about what's happening inside the pyramid.
Right.
Modern science tells us that in addition to the energy being inside the pyramid, it is also being emitted out of all 5 of the points. Which is to say, when people would bring a bottle of wine over to my house back in the day, and my pyramid was full of stuff, I didn't have room to put the bottle in. And also, I didn't want to embarrass the people because they're going to say, well, you think something's in my wine? You know? And I had to answer for that because I'm like, President Reagan made it so that sulfide had to be in all the wine.
Right.
Yes, there's stuff in the wine. Okay? But I could put it on one of the points. I could just put the bottle right on the point. As long as that point was touching that bottle, it was still going to purify that wine. Mm. So I say all that to say that, remember our definition for health is something that gives off more energy than it takes in.
Whole, right? Okay. Whole. Healthy. You said healthy means whole.
It means whole.
Right.
Okay. I want to say, so the pyramid is no different. It's letting off more energy than it's taking in. And that's a simplified way of saying the first thing that we know is that the pyramid is not just purifying and energizing the stuff that comes out of the ground. Correct. It's going below the ground as well.
True.
No, you say true, but I mean, think about people who don't want to do farming or they don't want to move it to some land because it's got toxins on it. Well, we can take those toxins away because the energy is extending beyond the physical shape. The second thing I wanted to say to you personally, is that building a pyramid over a garden means that energy is going out 500 feet in all directions.
Yep. We talked about that.
But what I want people to understand is just like the Egyptians, just like the Mexicans, just like the Mayans and the Aztecs, just like the people in Italy and China, because there's pyramids all over the world.
Right.
All over the world. Ancient pyramids, okay? What they understood is if I build a pyramid let's say, if I build a pyramid behind your house, okay, and then I go 2 blocks over and I build a pyramid. Well, the energy is going to extend out until eventually there's going to be a line between those 2 pyramids.
To me, that would be a good thing, right?
No, hold on. We haven't gotten to the ancestor part yet.
Oh.
We don't go to any country that got 2 pyramids. Let's just add a 3rd pyramid.
Ooh.
Okay, so 2 blocks from your house going south, and then we're going to build one that's going west. Okay, so now we got 3 pyramids. Okay. Well, guess what? If those pyramids remain standing, eventually everything in that triangle will be pyramidized. And that gets to the Russian thing you were talking about.
Right.
They understood, because they've been doing the most publicized work in the last 10 years about pyramids. They made skeletal pyramids. So they would just put up something that's 100 feet tall. Like 4 metal things, right? And then they would just drape material around it.
Bingo.
Okay? And what they found was it was affecting the plants on gardens 2 or 3 miles away from it.
Right.
And that's the other thing I want to say about pyramids versus all these people with their electroculture and all these rods and things that you see now.
Right.
Okay? That works. I know it works. Okay, but we're talking about extending beyond our local reality. In other words, I'm not just purifying or energizing my food in my garden. I'm trying to take away the toxins in my garden, the garden next to mine, and energize for the birds, the worms, and we forgot there's tiny little Negroes who do all the work, the microbiome, okay?
The microbiome, right.
The microbiome, the microbes. Come on now.
Right.
Okay, they not only, like people say, the roots go down and get the nutrients. No, they don't. The roots go down and send out a signal. And the microbes pick up on the signal, recognize what mineral or element they're talking about. They bring it to them, to the root, and then they shape it so it'll ideally go into that root.
Okay.
That's like, the animal chewing up the food to feed to the baby.
Right.
It's got to be in you got to break stuff down for it to be absorbable.
That's true.
To go back to the Wheaties.
No, you did. No, you just had to bring the Wheaties up.
I had to bring it up. Breakfast with champions.
Stop it. So, a person wants me to ask you, when you, I guess, putting all those pyramids in those, would you consider that a pyramid grid, or she said a grid, but I'm saying a pyramid grid, like a grid.
Yeah, of course.
He said, of course.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, it's a world grid. Look, this is one system. This whole political thing about we're different, or you're communist, you're this, do you eat your rice with a fork or spoon? Then you ain't that much different. Okay? Some people put salmon on it. Some people put chili sauce on it. So it's still rice. It's still going in your mouth. You're not putting it in your behind.
Well, I would hope not.
Well, look. All I'm saying is we tend to focus on these minor differences versus the majority of things that we have in common.
Sure.
And let me just finish my diatribe about the Russian thing.
Okay.
Okay. What the Russians were pointing out to us is that a pyramid or pyramid energy extends beyond the boundaries of the actual shape of that pyramid.
Okay.
And nobody had complete ownership or was the only people that could access the energy of the pyramids.
Right.
Because they were too big and they influenced too great of a landmass area for just one corporation or one group of people to be. It's for everyone.
Okay.
Because it's all one system anyway. The clouds come over, you got the hydrologic cycle where the rain comes up from the ground, it goes up, it travels over, then it comes back down, then it might go into the ocean, it might go down into the ground. Like, the water has to move, and it has to move in loops.
That's true.
And we've changed that whole dynamic. We're trying to hoard water. We're trying, we're literally doing things that give greater advantage to certain people and take stuff away from other people. They have nothing to do with this. And as long as we keep living this way, we're going to get the same results or worse. We've got to look at this thing as a system. Okay? Now, I'm glad the person asked about a grid, because a grid automatically implies it's a system.
Right.
That, right now, the American thing, what is it? American exceptionalism. Give me a break. Okay? No, don't. Okay? Because, for every person that's at the top, you've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of people doing all the work.
Right.
And we always have this illusion that it's one person or one idea or one company. No, that's not. Think about the Earth.
Collective.
The Earth is not the only planet in our solar system.
True.
And there's 100 million solar systems in our galaxy, or more than that, in our galaxy.
True.
And they all work together. We just don't see the lines of connection, but we're all working together.
Right.
I remember years ago they showed the Andromeda galaxy, and it was coming close to another galaxy. And of course, these people are always fond of describing things in terms of war and collision and death and destruction, right? Oh my God, it's getting close. There's going to be a battle. It's going to be a war. Well,
true. They like
apparently they hadn't read the instructions, because this one galaxy passed right through the other galaxy.
See,
I mean, they each have 100 billion stars, and yet it passed through and nobody collided with anybody.
Right.
Okay, we're only basing our way of thinking upon limitation. And not what nature tells us, which is overabundance.
Right.
Let's go back to the microbes for a moment, okay?
Okay.
I can take a tablespoon and go out in my backyard and pick up a mound of dirt, and there'll be more microbes in that little mound of dirt, than there are people on it in the United States.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of work.
But my point is, none of those microbes are homeless. None of them are hungry. Okay,
they're right. Oh my gosh.
Everybody has a function. There's no loss of self-esteem.
Right. That's what we
So
need to be like.
if you can come up with a system, if anybody wants to come up with a system, I don't care if it's communism, socialism, whatever, all of system. Show me something that everybody's fed and then I'm down.
Right.
I'm down. Okay. But let's talk about, now one of the things we know about pyramid and the pyramid shape, besides from the fact that it's a breast, okay? One of the things we know about this shape, anytime we have points, negative ions are going to be generated. Negative ions include plant growth. And as far as humans are concerned, it speeds up our rate of digestion. It makes our thinking more clear. It slows us from going to anger.
I like that one.
And it's not just humans. It's when we're talking about outside of our homes, the forest, the ocean, waterfalls,
right.
You got 70% negative ions to 30% positive ions.
Right.
Okay, that is the natural ratio that life should be under. When we walk into a house that has 90-degree corners like the house that we live in,
right,
that ratio is 30% negative ions and 70% positive ions. Positive ions increase anger. They slow down digestion. They make us more confused. They make us more impatient. Not only is our house or our shape of our rooms generating positive ions, our TV set, our refrigerator, fluorescent lights, computer. Don't mention the phone.
Hello.
Okay. So I'm just saying that a lot of our behavior, the way that we act, the way that we think that we are, when you say, oh, this is me. It's our environment. The environment it dictates to a great degree how we're going to react or act.
Right.
And so I'm saying this for a very simple reason. The thing is burning, okay? And I'm reading about how the birds like to sing when it first starts raining, because whenever you have moving water above ground, you got negative ions. But then I read on a deeper level, they said, when first thing, they activate the microbes. In other words, if a robin is flying 10 feet above me and he's making a sound, then that cat is going 10 feet below.
Mm.
And it's activating the microbes to interact with the plants. They've had many places where they got rid of all the bugs through insecticides.
Right.
Once the bugs are gone, the birds didn't come.
Right. Because they need to eat the bird. They need to eat. And then
Yeah, but my point is, because the plants didn't have the bird song, they weren't as healthy, even though they had no natural predators anymore.
Vibration. Okay, harmony and vibration. The notes.
Harmony and vibration. So I'm just saying that, you know, we've got this. It would behoove us to look at all these things as systems. And once we look at systems, then we automatically think in terms of grids and gridding.
You know what? You're amazing. But guess what? We already ran over time, but we made up for coming on late too. So we got to do this again. You know, I always enjoy this. So thank you, everybody, for coming out and joining us. We're going to do this again and have Lester Loving come out and bless us, because I was just really educated and definitely looking forward to he has an expo that he's going to be doing. So I'm going to be all in be up there, flying up to go there, and so I can be part of it. So I'm looking forward to this. So anybody,
I just want to say, I am not. You started off this thing by calling me a professor, and I'm more like the professor that George Washington Carver was.
Okay, and that means you're good, because he was good.
You know, well, no. What I mean is, What I mean is that he taught his students for half a year, and then they would get into the truck, and the truck had all the stuff that he had talked about, and they would drive out into the country and do the stuff to the ground and the soil and the plants with the farmer, so that the students actually got educated by teaching other people.
Nice.
And spreading it. See, that's the part they don't tell you about George. You know, he wasn't just in the classroom or in that lab inventing stuff himself. He involved everybody.
Right.
In the mix, and that's how I am. I'm like, we do two classes, and then we start making pyramids. We start putting the food in there. We start doing this stuff.
That's
okay. So I'm just saying that I'm not just a talker. I want to demonstrate to people. Once my video gets straightened up, we will be building stuff. I'll be building it right in front of you. You know, and you better put the kids in front of you.
Hello. I like
that. Because the kids are going to tell you how to put it together.
Of course.
Remember those 5 little white kids that came up to me and they go, Mr. We didn't have a refrigerator for 5 years.
Right.
I was done. They educated me. Okay.
But that's what it's about.
So, hey.
I love it. Like, you know, I always love having you. Come on. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out. I am Dr. D from Dreams to Reality Ranch Farm. I hope that we answered every questions. If we did not, I will go back to them later and get an answer for you, and we will get everything that you need. So if you have any more questions, like I said, let me know, write me, and I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Let me see. How do I do this? I always got to remember how to do this thing. How to close out.